Michael loved me to the bone. People said that even if I wanted the moon from the sky, he would take it down for me. I once believed it without a doubt. Until that day when I was struck and regained all my memories. It turned out that everything I once held dear had been destroyed by him. I really envy you. You have such a wonderful husband, Michael. Yeah, everyone says that even if you want the moon, Michael will climb up and get it for you. Today is my 28th birthday party. Michael organized a grand celebration for me and booked the best hotel in Pyeongchang. Roses flown in from Kentia filled the entire venue. I listened to the envy of the other wives around me, a smile of happiness curling on my lips. It's been 3 years with Michael, and his love for me has been unreserved. The whole city knows, Michael is madly in love with T. As the soothing music played, I exchanged a glance with Michael, who was chatting about business not far from me, and we were ready to walk to the center of the stage together. I'm going to kill you. I heard someone yell from behind. Without giving me any chance to react, I felt something heavy hit my head. My body uncontrollably collapsed to the ground. In my final moments, I saw Michael rushing towards me. He held me in his arms, repeatedly calling my name. But gradually, Michael's appearance changed. It turned into a man I didn't recognize. I felt like I had never seen him before. But he was still affectionately calling my name. The next time I woke up was 2 days later. I moved my stiff body and touched a soft arm beside me. Michael immediately woke up, his bloodshot eyes full of concern. When he saw me wake up, he was so happy that tears filled his eyes and he embraced me tightly. You've finally woken up, T. Okay, I'm fine. I'm going to be choked to death. Michael immediately released me, afraid to hurt me in the slightest. The doctor and nurse who had been called in just then arrived. The nurse looked at me with envy. You really are lucky. Who doesn't know that Michael is extremely busy and has a reputation for being a workaholic? Yet, he has stayed by your side without rest for 2 whole days. I lowered my head, hiding the emotions in my eyes. Michael did love me, he would have gladly taken out his heart and placed it in front of me. But because of that, he killed my husband. He killed the man who had been by my side for over 20 years since we were children. The man I truly loved. When I was unconscious, I remembered everything. Sean and I had grown up together in an orphanage, relying on each other. After we came of age, we quickly got married and created our own little home. We thought our happiness would last forever. But everything changed when I joined T Company and became Michael's secretary. People said that the new president of Michael's family business was known for being cold and aloof. But what was even more terrifying was his ruthless, decisive, and cruel personality. What I didn't expect was that Michael was the man I had met the previous week at the orphanage when I was volunteering. At that time, our conversation was not long, but since we were the only 2 people of a similar age, we were arranged by the director to work together. I thought of him as a man who was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. After all, from his actions, he didn't seem like someone from an ordinary family. During a casual chat, he asked about my job. I mentioned I was interviewing to be T Company's secretary. He smiled and nodded but didn't say much more. When I pushed open the door to the CEO's office and saw the man sitting upright at the desk, I finally understood the smile he had given me earlier. The first thing he said to me was, "We meet again." The second thing he asked was, "Are you married?" In the following days, I began to realize that Michael's treatment of me was different from anyone else's. After every interaction with him, I would feel weak and my consciousness would become a bit unclear. There was even one time when I hooked my arm around his neck and completely mistook him for Sean. If it hadn't been for someone suddenly barging in, it could have turned into a major mistake. The next day, I immediately applied for resignation. I still remember the terrifying look on Michael's face that day. He pinned me tightly against the door, his big hand completely wrapping around my throat. Michael, in a frantic voice, asked, "Why do you want to leave me?" Don't you feel how much I love you? I struggled desperately and shook my head. I have a husband who loves me and a happy family. How could I possibly have anything to do with such a psycho like him? From that day onward, he began to monitor my life. Even Sean's job was affected. We had to rely on the money we had saved over the years to get by. Half a year went by, and Michael seemed determined not to let us go. In a desperate situation, I finally took the initiative to seek him out. Michael laughed wildly. Divorce Sean and be with me, or I will never let him go in this life. He whispered into my ear, his breath chilling me to the bone. Just as I felt a wave of nausea, I couldn't control myself and vomited. This had been happening to me for the past few days, and I instinctively placed my hand on my stomach. This small movement was quickly noticed by Michael. He grabbed my wrist, his eyes glowing with the venom of a snake and scorpion. Are you pregnant with his child? Ignoring my resistance, Michael dragged me to the hospital. As expected, I was almost 3 months pregnant. I never expected Sean to show up. He must have just gotten the news. Michael's people blocked him from getting close. Through the transparent glass, Michael gently touched my lips, whispering softly, his life, and the life of the child in your belly, all lie in your hands. I lied to Sean, telling him that I had cheated on him, that I hated living such a poor life with him, and even that the child inside me was Michael's. But I never expected Sean to be so foolish. He unconditionally believed me, knowing that I must have a reason for saying such things. In the end, he tragically died in a car accident on the street. When I rushed over, he still had a faint breath left. His blood-stained lips touched mine. I believe you, I love you. Wife, what's wrong? Michael's voice snapped me out of my daze. I just shook my head and said, it's nothing. Get out of here. Don't you know who I am? I see you're asking for trouble. A familiar anxious voice rang out, and both Michael and I frowned instinctively. Before I could speak, he squeezed my palm. Leave it to me. Michael stepped out of the room. Brother. You haven't seen Carrie for several days. Don't you love me anymore? Do you know what you've done? T has been unconscious for 2 days because of you. She's not hurt, is she? I couldn't bear to listen to their conversation any longer. It was simply disgusting. Carrie is Michael's sister, but they aren't blood-related. She's the daughter his stepmother brought in. As a woman, I could clearly see her affection for Michael. Back then, I had asked Michael to keep his distance from her. But Michael just laughed and gently tapped my nose, saying, Carrie is my real sister. Why should you be jealous? Before I lost my memory, Carrie had caused me a lot of trouble out of jealousy because I spent so much time with Michael. I touched my aching forehead, gradually hiding the hatred in my eyes. Michael, Carrie. I wouldn't spare either of them. In the past 3 years, perhaps because of the love I still had for Sean deep inside me, even though I've been married to Michael for years, I've never shown excessive affection for him. Instead, I've always acted as a qualified wife. So when I was sent back home, I refused to get out of the car for a long time and instead, I hugged Michael tightly, holding back my disgust, burying my head in his chest. I don't want you to leave. Usually, I would always encourage him to hurry back to work and focus on his career. But Michael had never been treated this way. His heart raced immediately. Even his voice faltered. Wife, what's wrong? Why are you so mushy all of a sudden? Isn't being mushy a good thing? When I was hit a few days ago, I almost thought I was going to die. But when I woke up, I realized I should cherish you even more. Ever since Michael's father passed away, Carrie had been living with us. When she saw Michael's car arrive, she had already gone out to greet us. But when she saw we didn't get out of the car, she came closer. I had deliberately rolled down the car window, so Carrie could clearly see the affectionate scene between us two. As expected, she exploded. Brother. What are you doing? Michael, who had just placed his hand on my cheek, froze for a moment. His brows furrowed tightly. Honey, Carrie is okay. I reached up and gently touched the back of my head, which had been wrapped earlier. I had been living with Carrie for 3 years now. Though she often gave me the cold shoulder, I always considered her as a little sister, just with a bad temper and spoiled. I never took it to heart. Michael knew this too. So when he saw the fearful expression on my face as I first mentioned Carrie, there was a genuine pity in his eyes. Michael shot Carrie a sharp glare. Carrie, still afraid of her brother, suppressed the words she was about to say. With tearful eyes, I looked at Michael. Did I upset Carrie? Is she, ugh? I touched my head, gasping for air. She has no right to be angry. On your birthday, in front of the whole city of Gyeongchang, she physically assaulted you. If it weren't for your kindness, she would already be in jail. Jail? That would be too easy for her. She was a major contributor to the torment Sean and I endured back then. Everything I had suffered, I would make her repay. Carrie soon realized that Michael had been increasingly distant from her over the past few days. He didn't even allow her to enter and exit the company freely anymore. She attributed all her resentment to me. Finally, 3 months later, she exploded. As I hung up the phone with Michael and walked to the staircase, I found that Carrie had been waiting there for a while. She crossed her arms, acting like a young lady. I glanced at her indifferently, walking past her without a second thought. This was completely different from how I usually treated her. Carrie grabbed my arm. Can't you see I'm standing in front of you? It was the nanny's nap time, but we were standing in front of the nanny's room. I could tell from the small crack in the door that everything was set. Carrie had long since gotten used to me pretending to be a gentle wife in front of her, while also enduring Michael's neglect and my indifference. She could no longer suppress the emotions inside her. What's wrong with the young lady now? Hearing my sarcastic tone, Carrie's anger was immediately ignited. What's the matter? Can't pretend anymore after 3 years? Now your true nature has been exposed, right? You just want to monopolize my brother. You hypocritical slut. Carrie grew increasingly hysterical, but my gaze was filled with disdain, as if I were looking at a ridiculous clown. I get it. You were pretending all along. You've recovered your memory. Everything you've done is for revenge. I raised an eyebrow. I didn't expect Carrie to figure that out. But it's a pity. Michael won't believe it. I smiled arrogantly, leaning close to her ear and whispering, Sis, didn't expect you to see through it, huh? Carrie began to scream in madness, tearing at my hair. I knew it. I knew you were a slut. I immediately let tears fall, my voice trembling. Carrie, what's wrong with you? Let's talk this out. Carrie, seeing me acting like a green tea bitch, couldn't take it any longer. As expected, she raised her hand. I intentionally moved, turning my back to the staircase. When I raised my hand and touched Carrie's arm, I grabbed it, pulling her back and falling down. Ah! With my scream and the heavy sound of my body hitting the ground, the nannies rushed out of the room and dialed 120. In the ambulance, I received the call from the nannies. They were crying their hearts out. Michael, our child is gone. Ah! I was so emotional, feeling a hot rush beneath me. The doctor shouted anxiously from the side, calm down the patient's emotions. Michael, it hurts so much, it hurts so bad. When I was wheeled out of the operating room, I immediately saw Michael and Carrie. They rushed over. Not giving them a chance to speak, I pulled the dry corners of my lips and said, Get out. Let her go. Michael clearly didn't know what had happened. Our child was killed by her. Carrie, give me back my child. I reached for the necklace around Carrie's neck. That necklace was a gift from Michael for her 18th birthday, her most treasured possession. She instinctively pushed my hand away and shoved me back onto the bed. The nurses were furious. The patient just miscarried. How can you treat her like this? What's wrong with you? Carrie was speechless, only able to sob helplessly. Carrie was both wicked and foolish, straightforward, so she rarely lied. Michael turned to me and asked what she said. What did she say? I remember everything. Michael, you swore you'd never lie to me. What did you do to me? Seeing my rare, heart-wrenching expression, Michael seemed to sigh in relief. I softly called his name, Michael. We should get a divorce. Without any hesitation. Michael shouted, impossible. I smiled through my tears and said, Michael, our child is gone. But you're comforting your sister, even doubting that I set her up? If I wanted to do that to her, I've had countless opportunities in the past 3 years. Michael, people say you love me deeply. Is that really true? In your heart, maybe Carrie is more important, right? There's surveillance in the house, and nannies. So many eyes are watching, and yet you believe her words. And what about the memories I've lost? What exactly did you do to me? Michael shook his head and hugged me tightly. I'm sorry, wife, I was confused. It's my fault. Carrie never expected that the Michael, who had been defending her just a moment ago, would suddenly change his attitude. The faith she had in him collapsed in an instant. You fox. Why don't you just die? Michael slapped her face hard. Carrie's face turned red, and she stared in disbelief at the brother who had always cared for her. Brother. You're hitting me for a woman you've known for 3 years? She's your sister-in-law. Not that woman. No. She's not. I've never admitted that you're my brother. Michael instinctively looked at me in fear. When I overheard that Carrie wasn't Michael's biological sister, it was by accident as I passed by the study one day. At that time, I didn't speak up, so Michael always assumed that in my eyes, he and Carrie were full-blooded siblings. My pupils slowly widened, and I forced a tight smile. So all these years, Carrie wasn't just immature and clueless. It's because she liked you, her brother, so she kept targeting me. For the first time, I saw an expression of helplessness on Michael's face. No. I love you. I don't have any feelings for Carrie. Don't listen to her lies. Before I could answer, Carrie completely lost it. She cried as she grabbed Michael's arm. No. You used to say that I was the one you loved the most. Everything changed when this woman appeared. The room instantly became chaotic. I curled up on the bed, clutching my stomach. Michael panicked and pushed Carrie away. Carrie crashed into the wall uncontrollably, and I watched as blood seeped from the wound. I never expected Michael to be so harsh. Michael, you've gone too far. She cried as she stormed out of the room. I watched her leave, my gaze cold and unforgiving. Carrie, from the moment you left the hospital, you'll never return to your carefree, naive self. My simple declaration of divorce struck fear into Michael's heart. He stayed by my side day and night, even attending important meetings for the company remotely. It wasn't until I received a message from someone that I knew the plan had reached its final stage. I haven't heard from Carrie in so many days. I don't know if she's calmed down yet. Michael snorted. She won't die, but she'll wish she had. Michael. I had already warned you. It wasn't until half a month later that I heard from the police. Michael received a call from the station. They told him that Carrie had been arrested for selling herself. Michael immediately hung up the phone. After all, the idea of Michael's family's precious young lady being associated with the word prostitute was unimaginable. After hanging up, Michael seemed uneasy. He turned on the TV, and just then, the news reported that the police had dismantled Jiangqing's largest red light district. Among the fleeting images of several women, I saw Carrie's necklace. Michael clearly noticed it too. He stood up abruptly. I need to go to the office. You rest here. He kissed my forehead and left unsteadily. Once I confirmed he was completely gone, the smile on my face faded. I wiped the disgust off my forehead. Since regaining my consciousness, I had reached out to Hawk from that district. Fortunately, we had grown up in the same orphanage. After learning about my situation and Sean's death, even though he knew the risks, he chose to help me without hesitation. They had been keeping a close watch on Michael's family. After she escaped the hospital, they found the perfect opportunity. I had heard he had already fled abroad. I never imagined Carrie would be found so soon. Carrie seemed to have completely lost her sanity. When I returned to Michael's house, I found her curled up in the corner of the living room, refusing to let anyone approach. Even Michael couldn't get near her. Her body was covered in grotesque scars, cigarette burns, knife wounds. The injuries were endless. Surprisingly, Carrie didn't seem to remember me. The hatred that once filled her eyes had disappeared, replaced by a blank, vacant expression. I slowly approached her and draped my jacket over her shoulders. The floor is cold. Let's get up. Strangely, Carrie followed my words, staying close to me and not leaving my side. Only after some persuasion did she agree to let Dr. Lin approach her. The results showed that Carrie had developed selective amnesia. I gently caressed her face. From now on, with your sister by your side, no one will ever hurt you again. At first, Michael was worried. After all, Carrie's actions over the years had been unforgivable by anyone's standards. But 2 months later, I treated Carrie as my own sister. Even the housekeeper couldn't help but admire my kindness. Michael finally relaxed and went to attend a meeting in M Country. I knew my opportunity had come. I had already contacted Hawk and shared my entire plan with him. On the 5th day of Michael's trip to M Country, which also happened to be his birthday, I took Carrie with the pretense of celebrating Michael's birthday. I had Alex keep our movements a secret. I carried the cake and, with Carrie by my side, rang the doorbell several times, but there was no response. Why isn't brother opening the door? Is he not at home? I quickly called Alex, who came out and handed me the spare key card. Inside, rose petals were scattered across the floor, and the air was thick with an unspoken, suggestive atmosphere. My face immediately darkened, and the cake slipped from my hands. Even Alex hadn't expected such a situation. President. Madam has arrived. The voice continued, but I rushed into the room, pulling Carrie along with me. The two of them seemed oblivious to the presence of others, as if they didn't notice anyone had entered. When Carrie saw the woman's face, she immediately began screaming and clutching her head. Don't touch me. I know I was wrong. Please, don't hit me. Ah. When the woman saw us, she quickly picked up a bathrobe from the side and wrapped it around herself. The woman was naturally someone I had arranged. Carrie's reaction was so intense because the woman had been the one who controlled Carrie in the past. Seeing the woman, all those painful memories flooded back. Carrie's screams finally woke Michael. He groggily rubbed his temples, trying to figure out what was happening. I grabbed the pillow next to me and threw it right at his face. Michael, go die. Wife. No, listen to me, let me explain. I looked at Michael as he charged towards me and grabbed my hand. I slapped him straight across the face. Michael. Everyone said you loved me to the bone. That you would give me the moon if I asked for it. But what have you done to me? I've had enough. Carrie went crazy too. Don't touch me. Get away. The scene turned chaotic, and the woman had already disappeared without a trace. People outside, hearing the noise, rushed to the door, filming everything on their phones. Soon, the news of Michael's affair spread throughout the streets and alleys. The topic of Michael's affair quickly topped the trending list on Weibo. Tea Company, which was not as prestigious back then, had relied on Michael's doting husband persona to gain widespread media attention. As the saying goes, the water that carries the boat is the same that can capsize it. Michael was condemned by a large number of netizens. And Carrie, triggered by the woman, had her condition worsen and was sent to the hospital for treatment and observation. The people who had been waiting on the floor were all arranged by me, aiming to push Michael to this final step. As expected. As soon as I stepped off the plane, I saw the news of Michael holding an emergency press conference. He said, the affair was entirely a setup. I never did anything to harm my wife or my family. A reporter asked, "You've built a perfect image of a loving husband, but netizens have uncovered that T holds no shares in the company. How do you explain this?" Michael cleared his throat and announced, "I am willing to give 20% of my shares to my wife, T, as a gesture to show my sincerity." The scene erupted into an uproar. You see, based on the current stock price of T Company, 20% of the shares were worth billions. That night, Michael appeared at the hotel I was staying in, holding roses and kneeling before me, professing his love. I forgave him, but my condition was that I must stay at the company at all times, to ensure he could never betray me again. For the past 3 years since our marriage, I had subconsciously repelled him physically. So, our relationship was only cordial, at best. This behavior of being scared that he would leave me was a first for him, and he was thrilled. He had no idea that I would recover my memory 3 years later, nor did he know about my ambitions. I was always an excellent student in school, winning first-class scholarships every year. In just a month, I was already familiarizing myself with the company's business. To make Michael let down his guard, I often stayed by his side, acting as his secretary. However, I had secretly begun adding methylprednisolone, a corticosteroid, to his tea, which he loved. Long-term use of corticosteroids causes a range of adverse reactions: adrenal gland hyperfunction syndrome, digestive system complications, cardiovascular issues, and it can even be fatal. With my excellent skills, I gained significant influence within the company. I developed new products, improved company systems, and connected to international channels, taking the company's revenue to new heights. Meanwhile, Michael was suffering from the side effects of the drugs in his body. His once delicate features had started to distort, a moon-shaped face, a buffalo hump. He was also often plagued by severe gastrointestinal pain and his vision was becoming blurry. While Michael did whatever I asked of him, he remained extremely selfish towards others. Just like when he went to any lengths to win me over in the beginning. I had already bought off all his close associates, including Alex, who had followed him for nearly 10 years. The hospital reports showed it was just excessive fatigue. Michael finally relaxed, thinking there was nothing to worry about. In the meantime, the company's board members were growing restless, but Michael was too consumed by his health issues to focus on them. He had no choice but to hand over the company completely to me. But what Michael didn't know was that I had already secretly met with these board members. I made them certain promises. Compared to the selfish and ruthless Michael, they preferred to cooperate with me, someone who appeared harmless and could still bring in money for them. 3 months passed. By now, I had successfully gained the support and backing of the board members. I knew it was all about to come to an end. I boldly appeared at home with my young and handsome male secretary. Michael was furious. He staggered toward me, rushing in front of me. "Who is that man?" "He's just my secretary." "Don't be so agitated. Look at you, you're getting uglier." The seemingly light words I spoke had a huge impact on Michael. During this time, he had been tortured by his illness and was in such a miserable state, no longer the finely groomed man he once was. He had started to become paranoid, having Alex investigate my movements. At this point, I no longer wanted to pretend anymore. Even Michael, no matter how slow, had finally noticed something was off. That day, when I came home, Michael fixed his gaze on me, his eyes full of cold malice, a slowly growing murderous intent. I put down my Hermes bag, took off my high heels, and walked towards him. "What's wrong, hubby? You seem a bit upset?" He suddenly slapped my hand away, grabbing my throat. "Did you call for a board meeting to remove me from the chairman position? Is it you?" I couldn't help but laugh. His body was pitifully weak. I easily pushed his hand away and knocked him to the ground. Michael, isn't it a little too late for you to realize now? I loved you so much. Why are you doing this to me? Michael clutched his chest, convulsing. The drugs he had been taking over the past months had already pushed his heart to its limits. He couldn't handle any more stress. I squatted down in front of him, using the posture he had grown accustomed to 3 years ago, gently brushing his hair away from his ear. Because, I want you to die. The familiar movement awakened Michael's memory. His eyes widened in terror. You remember everything? Yeah, thank your lovely sister for knocking some sense into me. I should actually thank her. But now, she's locked up in a mental hospital. With my care, her life is probably quite miserable. Michael struggled desperately on the floor. He grabbed my ankle with all his might. Please, save me. Seeing Michael like this, my mind flashed back to the scene of Sean in my arms. He had been struck by a van and was already on the verge of death. With every word he spoke, blood poured from his mouth. Live well with my share. Just thinking about it made my body tremble. Looking at Michael lying on the ground, I couldn't help but want to kill him with my own hands. But I had promised Sean that I would live on with his share. I stepped on Michael's chest and repeatedly crushed it. Michael, I'm going to let you die by my hands. I was only out for an hour, but when I returned, the housekeeper called. He told me Michael was dead. His death was brutal. His 5 fingers were deeply dug into his chest, his wide-open eyes filled with blood, and his cracked mouth showed the agony he had endured. I turned around and drove straight to the mental hospital where Carrie was. She had been locked up there for 7 months. When she heard someone was visiting, she seemed to think it was Michael and showed an expression of joy. But when she saw me, her smile quickly faded, and her eyes filled with hostility. From her expression, it seemed she was well enough to recognize me now. It wasn't in vain that I had brought in top foreign specialists to treat her. You filthy woman, what are you doing here? She was wearing a hospital gown, her face pale, her already thin body now looking like it could be blown away by a gust of wind. Don't get worked up, I'm here to tell you some good news. Before she could react, I continued, my dear brother is dead. Carrie thought I was joking and sneered. My brother has been working out every day, his body has always been fine. You really think you can fool me? I raised an eyebrow, opened my phone, and leaned it close to Carrie's ear. Of course, I killed him. He suffered so much when he died, it was so painful. Before I could finish, Carrie completely lost control. She grabbed a book nearby and violently threw it to the ground. It's you. It's you. The medical staff quickly surrounded her, sensing something was wrong. I deliberately fueled the fire. Sister, your brother is waiting for you to go home. Carrie, hearing this, suddenly calmed down, as if she had received a divine message. Just as everyone thought she had regained her sanity, she suddenly ran wildly toward the balcony. There was no time for anyone to react. Then, we heard a loud thud as Carrie fell to the ground. I followed the crowd downstairs and saw Carrie convulsing on the ground. Her bulging eyes were fixed on me. Carrie was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. Fortunately, it was only from the 3rd floor, so she didn't die. After the rescue, I looked at Carrie, now without legs and with a catheter attached to her, my eyes full of mockery. TSK, looks like even your brother didn't want to see you. Carrie mumbled, though her words were unclear. But it was all just about wishing me a terrible death. I leaned close to her side. Finally, I heard one thing. You will go to hell. I couldn't help but laugh. Hell? After living with Michael all these years, my life had already been a living hell. As for my future, I would live on with Sean's share. As for the siblings, let them slowly atone for Sean's sins in hell. 40 years later. After Michael's death, I inherited all his assets. Under my leadership, the group grew rapidly, expanding toward a larger international stage. It had long since moved from the front lines to the second tier. People around me came and went, one batch after another. I had gotten used to living alone, used to visiting Sean's grave every day to speak to him, sharing the memories of the past. Decades passed, and the memories from the beginning had been shared thousands, even tens of thousands of times. Until that day. In my haze, I thought I heard Sean's voice. He seemed to be as young as he was in his 20s. I trembled as I stood up from my wheelchair, wanting to run to his side. The moment I touched Sean, it felt like my body had returned to my youth. The grievances of the past few decades surged out in an instant. Sean, just like before, gently stroked my hair. Good girl, it's all over now. This time, we'll never be apart. Okay, we'll never be apart.